Hi everyone, in today's video we're gonna take a look at the swiftness build for the artillerist. We're gonna talk about it assuming you have legendary armor and accessories, and also assuming you have a relic grade armor sets and accessories. I will explain everything from the sets of gear, which one are the best, to the combat stats, engravings, gems, cards, skill builds, skill rotation, skill tripods. Ideally, I would like to not only spoon feed you the build, but also help you understand why we chose the stats we chose, why we didn't choose them any differently, why we chose the skills and the tripods and the engravings. So I will explain things a little bit more in detail. However, if you're just interested in specific bits, then please feel free to jump to that part as the video will be chaptered. So the main idea of this swiftness crit build is to reach a crit rate in between 80 and 90% by ourselves, to which we can add a class synergy, which would put us in between 90 and 100%, which is the perfect zone. To reach this crit chance milestone, we did a specific amount of crit stat, after which everything else gets dumped into swiftness. On top of this crit stat, we also have the help of engravings, and maybe in some cases the help of a card set. We're going to discuss everything. Let's quickly calculate this crit rate that we need to bring by ourselves, 80 to 90%. So we take a 30% crit rate from our combat stat, we go to our engravings, we take 40% crit rate from our firepower enhancement, that is 70, and another 15% from adrenaline, that is 85. Add to this a class synergy, would put us at around 95% crit chance during firepower level 3. Why do we calculate this firepower engraving as the last or the highest bonus that it gives? Well, for several reasons, one of them being the fact that during firepower meter level 3 is the time when you do the most damage as an artillerist. So that is your time to shine, your time to go. It is also the time that you need to sort of have it be your choice, not just leave it to chance when you get to the firepower meter level 3. I'm going to show you that when we talk about the rotation, and I will show you examples of it as well. However, the firepower level 3 buff is the time when you cast your biggest DPS skills twice, is the time when you enter the bombardment mode, of course, assuming the mechanics allow you, and you cast your bombardment mode skills as well. That is the moment, those 20 seconds when you dish out the most damage, and they need to be calculated very precisely, right? And this is the reason why we take 40%. However, even if we don't take 40%, which is reason number 2, let's say we calculate 30%, right? The lowest value there, which gets activated when firepower meter is at the level 1. Now, even if we take 30 from that, and we take 30 from our crit chance, that's 60, and we take 15 from adrenaline, that is 75, plus the class synergy, we're still sort of at 85, around 85% crit chance while we're in firepower level 1. And firepower level 1 is always reached without using any of your biggest DPS skills. So because of that, you're constantly going to be at least firepower level 1 when you use your big skills. So you're gonna have at least the crit rate that we just calculated with the lowest value of the firepower enhancement engraving. Another place to get crit rate is from your card sets, assuming you have this Lostwindcliff, for example, that for 12 piece awakening gives you 7% crit rate. 7% from here, if I calculate, plus another 30 from here, that's 37, plus 15, that is 52%, plus another 40, that's 92%, plus a class engraving, it would put me over 100%, which is definitely not good. So if you have this card set, you can easily go for 700 points of crit here, just so you wouldn't waste anything. 700 points puts you at 25%, 25 plus 15, that's 40, plus another 40, that's 80, and plus the card set, that's 87, plus a class synergy, for example, would put you in between 90 and 100%, but not passing that. So these are two ways to go depending on the card set that you have, how much crit rate it gives you. How do you get these stats? For example, 700 points with legendary grade accessories, you get it from one necklace with crit and one earring with crit. If you are wearing my stat and you do not have this particular card set, then 800 points is the way to go, and you get it from one legendary necklace and 2 legendary rings. In terms of relic grade accessories, how you get these stats, relic grade offers you more accessories, 2000 1000 points of combat stats to distribute, 500 on the necklace, 300 on each earring, and 200 on each ring. So with relic grade accessories, you would go 500 plus 200 on a ring, that's 700, or 500 plus 300 on an earring, that's 800. And that's how you would combine them. Lastly, in the stats section, I would also like to mention the pet, because it's also used to give you stats. We use swiftness on our pet, and in general, you should have your pet give you the stat that you have the most of, because the pet gives you percentage of that stat, and if you get percentage of a higher stat, that means you get more percentage, more value in return. Can we just go into the skills now so we can explain those also, and then we're going to go to the skill tripods, and afterwards I'm going to show you the rotation. Starting from the top, I use enhanced shell with armor destruction, bullet enhancement, and internal ignition. Armor destruction is mandatory to bring as an artillerist, but you can get it from other skills as well, such as howitzer or summon turret. We're going to talk about the summon turret's armor destruction perk when we get there, and I'm also going to give you an alternative to using enhanced shell during the summon turret a bit. So if you're interested in not using enhanced shell, please watch the summon turret part as well. I prefer it like this. Enhanced shell, if you get used to it, if you get it into your muscle memory, it's actually a pretty decent DPS skill at the end of the day, right? But of course, assuming you're using it as often as possible, or quite often. It has a very low cooldown, so for some people it might be a little bit annoying to keep using, but at the same time the low cooldown is also a plus, simply because you can easily keep up your adrenaline stacks by using enhanced shell in between two of your other skills. Bullet enhancement is the only perk in the middle that brings an increase in DPS for the skill, and internal ignition is the only perk here that you should use while fighting bosses. Not that it has any extra boss damage perks, but it's just a way to go because it does more damage. I'm using a rage rune on it. However, you can easily just do a quick recharge. You can do a purify for the first gate of Valtan, whatever fits your needs better. Napalm shot is the second skill I use, tiered up to the first tripod here for the class synergy, which is the stagger damage increased by 20% for all of the party members. Now, napalm shot is a skill that I really wanna love, but at the same time it's pretty hard to love it because of the tripods. They're a little bit weird, and also the execution of it. In some cases it's weird. Now, I use it just as a stagger debuff class synergy. I also have a wealth rune on it, which helps me generate enough firepower meter so that I can always reach level 1 very fast, simply because I do not have a legendary wealth yet. If I would have legendary wealth rune on flamethrower, I would not use wealth here, but instead I would use maybe an overwhelm. Now, napalm shot is a skill that was changed in this week's major balance patch to not give you a positional advantage anymore. Thus it works, well, it does more damage, you get more value out of it in terms of DPS if you use the Hitmaster engraving, right? We're going to talk about it when we get to the engraving part. If you tier it up to the last stage, which is a way of playing it, absolutely, you can go with this route, or you can go with this route. These two skills work well together. These two skills work well together. This one increases the explosion critical chance by 50%, and this one does 2 explosions, so that's why they go good together. This one increases the flame area's outgoing damage, and this one makes the flame area stay longer on the ground. So it's your choice how to go. If you go like this, then you're gonna have a recoil, which is sometimes a little bit annoying to deal with, because you know, you barely have time as an artillerist, as a very slow class, to move a little bit out of a puddle and use your things just so you can get recoiled back into some other puddle or some other mechanic that was here. So because of this, it's a little bit wonky to use in that sense, but if you can get used to recoil, it's definitely a good choice to go like this. The second option is Fierce Heat and Dancing Flames. This one doesn't have a recoil, so it would be my choice if I would choose to tier up Napalm Shot. However, the boss is expected to stay in this flame area so you can get the most value out of it. It is definitely possible to play it like this. It's definitely possible to get the full value of this, or let's say most of the value. Next skill is the multiple rocket launcher. In the top 3, on number 3 in the top 3 your best DPS skills, we do flame rocket, quick barrage, access denied. This is the way to go in order to get the most damage out of it, and this is sort of the only way that you should go with this skill. This skill is great. We use a Gale Winds rune on it, just so we can get it out of the way faster, because it has quite a long animation and it keeps us in place for the duration. Yeah, flamethrower, a very important skill and a very nice skill in general for the artillerist. We can use firepower control, ranged flame, and azure flame. Firepower control is the only tripod that you should use here if you're using flamethrower as a skill. In the middle, arguably you can go for the shield, right, instead of the ranged flame, and for the last bit you go for the azure flame, because it gets to cast the skill faster. The rune that I have is a wealth, and the rune on flamethrower as a skill should always be wealth. The higher grade of wealth you have, the better. I don't have the legendary, reason why I'm using an epic here, and another reason why I'm using another wealth here, just because I don't get enough firepower meter just with a purple rune, so I need sort of another. The next one is air raid. In the top two, your best DPS skills, we have quick fire, flame barrage, and the big one. Quick fire can arguably be replaced with concussion if you feel the need, or if your group needs a little bit more stagger. Flame Barrage is a great choice now after the most recent major balance patch, because before it just did extra flame damage and it was a very tough choice to pick it over the extra 30% crit rate, which would have made air raid always crit. However, after the change to the Flame Barrage tripod this week, it also does extra damage to challenge rank or higher mobs, which includes bosses, right? So it's a fantastic perk. It's the way to go right now. The big one is the only way to go in the last section. I use a Gale Wind on the air raid as well, just because the faster you get your skills away out, the faster you can move out of things and be prepared to cast the next skills in a safe spot intuitively, right? Next one is the Summon Turret, a great skill by the way. I use Sub Battery, Enhanced Turret, and Laser Turret. Sub Battery can be replaced with Armor Destruction, and let's take a moment to discuss doing this. So if you take Armor Destruction here on turret, that means you're losing a little bit of damage from the turret. Another downside besides the little DPS loss for playing Armor Destruction on turret is the fact that in content where there's ads, you never know which target the turret is going to choose. So you might not actually have the Armor Destruction buff on the one that you're looking for. And not to mention that in some of the content such as Guardian Raids, where the bosses move a lot quite often, planting a turret here and then the boss jumping on the other side of the room, you would have to re-summon the turret, right? But this one that has been forgotten here is just simply not doing damage. So you're losing even more bit of damage by consuming the turrets in unfortunate times, right? Obviously you can know the mechanics all you want. Sometimes it just happens that you need the turret out for the Armor Destruction debuff because it's running out from the previous one, but the boss is about to do the mechanic where it jumps away. So it's a little bit lost there. However, there is a pretty significant plus in having Armor Destruction on turret, and that is the ease of use of this particular build. Now, if you have Armor Destruction here, you wouldn't necessarily need to use Enhanced Shell at all. So you can replace Enhanced Shell with Swing, for example. Swing, which is a very nice skill. Not only it's a counter, but also it's a mobility skill, right? Swing makes it the whole build even easier to play because it's nice to reposition yourself to the correct place, fast reposition, and then go to bombardment mode or go to casting your skills, etc. And not to mention that in the most recent endgame content, which is Valtan, counters are very important to have, right? Fast counters, very important to have. So because of this, I believe it has mega value and it brings even more flow and ease of use of this particular build. I very often actually play with Swing and the Armor Destruction on the turret, simply because it's just such a comfortable way of doing at the cost of some DPS, right? Cool. Let's just move on and set the things up like they were. Where's the next skill? The next skill, by the way, I have a bleed rune on the turret, and you should also strive to have a bleed rune on it. It's a fantastic rune to have. With the amount of swiftness that we have, we get bleed all the time on the target, which is really nice. Next one is your bread and butter, Homing Barrage, the thing that makes you an artillerist, right? Homing Barrage, we do guiding enhancement weak point detection, and power bomb. If you need more range and you're thinking about choosing this tripod, you go yourself closer to the boss, and that's the range that you're making up for, right? Guiding enhancement should be the one you take. Weak point detection, this is the one that you pick from the middle. There is no other one because it does more damage to boss monsters. And then power bomb is the one that you pick here because this one does completely different things, right? I use a quick recharge on homing barrage. However, you can easily use rage, you can use wealth, even you can use focus if you're having problems with mana, etc. Next one is the energy shield, a fantastic addition to the artillerist, something that I believe is mandatory in any artillerist build, no matter if it's swiftness, specialization build, etc. I use mind concentration, quickly prepare, and solid shield. Mind concentration here can be replaced, for example, with firepower concentration, but I prefer this because it has a chance not to consume mana, and that's perfectly fine. Quick prepare is my choice because I want the shield more often. However, you can easily go for energy increase, where you get less often the shield because it's not so short cooldown, but it lasts longer on you whenever you get it. So for fights where there's let's say fewer or less often mechanics where you need to have the shield or where you would want to, you can definitely pick this tripod up. Solid shield is the only way to go here at the end, and this is fantastic. I know you might be thinking, hey, that's heavy, a 10-point commitment into the shield. This is what keeps you on your feet when you need to be on your feet. This is what keeps you into a mechanic that's not a raid wipe, and you need to stay there so you can finish a proper rotation, or because, I don't know, you've just pressed the shield before bombardment mode and you want to get those skills out. This is a very helpful tool to an otherwise slow and immobile class, which is an artillerist, and it's mandatory to use. Get used to using this, for example, right before you enter level 3 firepower buff, simply to have a protection to use everything you need to use, all of your big skills twice during the firepower level 3 buff. It doesn't have a rune simply because the last rune, the Gale Wind, is on the energy cannon, which is a bombardment mode skill. I'm going to show it to you and explain it in the rotation section. Next, let's quickly talk about the tripods, the skill tripods that we have. We're going to start with the most important ones and go down the line. Homing barrage takes tripod priority in the top 2 best DPS skills you have. Power bomb, weak point detection, absolutely max these two out. Then we have air raid, where the big one, flame barrage, both of them fantastic tripods, max these out also. Quick fire, you know, up to you if you actually need it to be even faster than it is. Third one that I would like to mention is the flamethrower with the firepower control tripod. This is really important for firepower meter generation, right? Especially when you start over a build, a rotation. I'm gonna show it to you in a moment. So just one from firepower. On spot number 4, even though it's your third highest DPS skill, multiple rocket launcher, all 3 of these, access denied, quick barrage, flame rocket, have to be maxed out because they each contribute to more damage of this skill, and it's a pretty nice skill. Then we can take a look, for example, at the enhanced shell. If you're using it, we have internal ignition and bullet enhancement, both with nice tripods. What else we have in the swing department? We don't really have anything that would be of interest to us if we do use it. Turret, a very nice skill. We have laser turret and enhanced shell. Even more important to have tripods for the turret than it is for the enhanced shell, right? Because in some cases you might actually not use it, or for some fights. So yeah, turret takes a higher priority than the enhanced shell. And then lastly, we have the energy field, which we have tripods for both of your choices here in the middle, either energy increase or quickly prepare. Very nice. Now let me show you what an ideal rotation would look like. Not that you're ever gonna have the chance to do 2 or 3 of these in a row during a real scenario when you're fighting a boss. However, it's important to understand the skill usage and how they go with each other, and what's the whole purpose of the thing. We're gonna reset our cooldown so we can start all the way from the beginning, because it's important. The rotation is based on using on not using these skills to get to firepower level 1, right, your biggest DPS skills, but using other skills, and at firepower level 1 we start using these skills, and then we calculate firepower level 3 to be based on the cooldowns of the homing barrage and also air raid. Armor reduction from enhanced shell, summon turret, we do a napalm, we go into flamethrower, and here we've already reached level 1 firepower buff, at which point we plant the landmine, we do the air raid, and we do a multiple rocket launcher. Now we're basically waiting and refreshing our armor reduction buff. We're waiting for the cooldown of the flamethrower and these two to match, like now, and then we're gonna pull the trigger. Firepower level 3 has reached. This is the big time to shine. We're going to bombardment mode as well. This is the time when we hit our big skills, hopefully twice during the same firepower buff meter. Here we refresh our cooldowns again. We plant the landmine, we plant the air raid as well, and everything explodes during the same firepower thing. Now the rotation started again from the beginning. We do the normal rotation to get to firepower level 1. Here we have reached it. We plant the landmine and also the air raid. We do a multiple rocket launcher as well while we are here, and again, same as the previous time, we're waiting for the cooldowns to match, right? Flamethrower is off cooldown, so when we have 2 seconds left on the homing barrage and air raid, we can already use it. We go to barrage mode. We cast the howitzer, which also gives you armor destruction, by the way. The energy cannon, get out. We cast the multiple rocket launcher, and again, for the second time, homing barrage and air raid, all in the same duration of firepower level 3. Now that was an example of an ideal 2 rotations in a row. In real fights, you most likely won't have the time to do 2 in a row. You sometimes won't even have time to do 1 fully, right, with the bombardment mode and with recasting the 2 biggest skills after you exit, etc. However, what you need to take from this is the fact that during firepower level 3, during this time, this is the time that is your time to shine. This is the time where you need to try at least and cast your biggest skills twice, to try at least to get into the bombardment mode and cast your biggest skills here as well. However, again, if you cannot, because of mechanics, if you cannot enter bombardment mode, for example, you cannot, you need to hide behind the pillar. That's fine as long as you use these twice during that time. Or for example, you cannot use these the second time. You can just use them at the beginning, bombardment mode, then you need to hide behind the pillar and the firepower meter is gonna disappear. That's also fine. It's as much as you can do, but you need to choose yourself when you enter firepower level 3. That shouldn't be a matter of chance, that you didn't pay attention to your gauge. It should be a matter of choice. As an artillerist, positioning is key. Knowledge of boss mechanics is very important, sprinkled with a little bit of luck and intuition. That's how you get everything going your way. That's how you get the full advantage of firepower level 3, by knowing when is your time to go, and how far you are away from things, etc., and how much can you cast during a specific period. In cases where you don't have time to cast your big skills, or it's not the right time to enter barrage mode, don't forget to keep your adrenaline stacks, if you play adrenaline, up by using short cooldowns, like for example enhanced shell or the summon turret, just so you can already have those that crit rate that adrenaline gives you up for when you do decide to pull the trigger on firepower level 3. That was for the rotation. Now let's get a little bit more into the engravings, the gems, and also the card sets. I use Grudge, Firepower Enhancement, Keen Blunt, and Adrenaline. Now Grudge is a fantastic DPS increase, absolutely top tier for Artillerist and many other classes as well. Grudge's negative side, the 20% extra damage we take, is negated by our Firepower Enhancement, which reduces the damage we take by 20%. Firepower Enhancement, a fantastic tool for a swiftness crit build to have. A Keen Blunt weapon goes perfectly fine with our high crit chance, and it's a top tier choice of engraving for an artillerist. And lastly, my fourth is Adrenaline, which gives me nice perks. It's a great value engraving, not only for the crit chance but also for the attack power, but it has sort of an upkeep cost of using 6 different skills before you actually get the crit chance bonus that you're looking for. So because of that, it's not the most straightforward or easy to play engraving, especially for a slow class like an artillerist, where actually using 6 skills takes a little bit of time, right, to build up those adrenaline stacks and actually get the value out of them. So because of this, I wouldn't blame you if you would replace your adrenaline engraving, but in that case you would need to also swap around your stats. You would need to play 1100 crit and the rest, whatever is left in swiftness, right? Simply because you would need to compensate for the crit rate that you're missing from adrenaline. 1100 crit would give you a 40% crit rate. You would have 40 from here, that's 80. Maybe another card set for 787 plus a class engraving, you would get to the right point, right? Even without the card set. So that is why you need to play them the other way around. Now, instead of adrenaline, for example, or if you're using relic grade accessories and you have 5 engraving spots, I would definitely like to recommend a couple, like for example the Cursed Doll. Cursed Doll is a great choice as well. However, it has a negative, which is that potions heal you less, but it is bringing a great value. Hitmaster is another really nice engraving, especially if you're planning to play the napalm shot tiered up to the last tier. That's another great choice. And when you do get over 1400 points of swiftness, for example, Raid Captain is another great choice here to have as a 5th engraving. As for gems, we obviously need our 3 highest DPS skills, Homing Barrage, Air Raid and Multiple Rocket Launcher, to have both the cooldown and the damage gem. Assign, if you have various levels of gems, assign the highest level of cooldown gem to the Multiple Rocket Launcher, because it has the highest cooldown, so you get the most value out of it, and also it sort of brings it down to match you know, the Air Raid cooldown, for example, and also the Homing Barrage. Other than that, we use damage on the Summon Turret, we can use cooldown on the Flamethrower, we can use cooldown on the Energy Field, this is a fantastic gem by the way, and also damage on the Barrage skill. This is a very nice setup. If you're using Napalm tiered up to the 3rd tripod, you can definitely add a damage gem to Napalm as well. In terms of cards, we discussed them a little bit in the stats section. However, Lostwindcliff set is a great set of cards, but it's not the best that you can have, at least not for the foreseeable future, where the Light of Salvation card set would be the better choice for a DPS class in Lost Ark. If you don't even have this and you cannot be bothered to farm it, then you can get any other set of cards, something that gives you more attack power, something that gives you more crit damage, or even something that gives you more HP. Lastly, I would like to talk about the best sets, Legendary and also Relic, that a swiftness based artillerist should use. The legendary one is the Harsh Oath set from Argos. I like the bonuses from it. The extra crit damage is fantastic for an artillerist. We have very high crit chance, and also to be noted that I don't count the total lunar eclipse bonus, the 25% extra crit chance to my builds, simply because I don't always have a preordained diligence set wearer in my pocket there for every content that I do. On top of that, people are now starting to swap from these Argos sets to either the legendary Valtan sets or the Relic set that came out. So because of this, it's even fewer chances to find always someone that has a full preordained diligence set. Not to mention that the buff itself is not permanent, so I might not actually have it when I need it. I don't base my build on that last set from the Argos pieces, and I think that neither should you, excuse me. In terms of relic grade sets, I would like to recommend just one, which is in my opinion the best set, and that is the Nightmare set. Now the Nightmare set works perfectly fine with a lot of swiftness, simply because it gives us a lot of bonuses that are based on mana recovery and also cooldown reduction and damage of skills that use mana. So this is an absolutely perfect fit for a high swiftness build, even for 2 pieces, right? It reduces the mana cost of our skills by 50% and it increases their damage by 12%, which is even here absolutely fantastic. Not to mention that at 4 pieces we start juggling in between 2 very interesting buffs, and at 6 pieces these buffs are enhanced even further. So I absolutely recommend the Nightmare set if you're playing a swiftness artillerist. And that was everything for today's video. I thank you so much for watching. In my next artillerist guide, I will talk about the specialization build, which is a very interesting build, plays completely different than a swiftness one, and it is right now the mainstream build, as it has a higher DPS output potential than the swiftness one. Until then, I wish you a great day, stay safe, and see you really soon.